All right. Well, good evening, everybody. This is Yulia Houston, and I am in my office on Tuesday afternoon. And I have my two helpers with me, Jason and Jiyun, who will help me deliver the webinar titled Has My Child Applied to College Yet? However, this webinar will cover many more pieces of information besides the information that you need to answer this question. So let's begin. Well, first of all, this is our agenda. So I want to share with you statistics for the class of 2020. I think it will be very interesting for you to know what our current state of college application process is. We're also going to go over three very important slides, and we're going to talk about students' tasks. We're going to talk about parent tasks, and we're going to talk about CAC's responsibilities during the college application process, meaning September, October, November, December. And then we will talk about the upcoming due dates and upcoming things that needs to happen. And then I will answer the question at the end, whether or not your child applied to college. So here are preliminary statistics, and I made a comparison chart between class of 2020 and the class of 2019. What you need to keep in mind, while the numbers for the class of 2020 look kind of huge, so for instance, for the number of total applications over 2,000 versus under 2,000, our size of the classes vary. So our class of 2020 has 221 students in it, whereas the class of 2019 had 198. So we do have more students in the current class, but also the total number of applications is going to go way down because this is right now students are telling us they're applying. It does not mean that they will complete all of these applications. So there's a great chance in January they're going to come to our office and say, oh, yeah, remember I wanted to apply to University of Pittsburgh? Well, I never did. So that the number of 2,409 will definitely go down. The early actions is a very different story. So early actions, schools that use your early action, usually it's the November 1 or November 15 due date. So that number is not going to vary that much. And it's the number of students who apply to a college under the early action under the early action agreement. And again, as you can see, the class of 2020 sort of is way ahead of class of 2019. Again, we have more students, but they're still overall applying to more colleges under early action due date. Restrictive early action. So those are the colleges, very few colleges that will allow you to apply early, but will not allow you to apply early anywhere else. So the difference between the restrictive early action is that you have to apply only to one college, private school early. You can apply to public schools, but not to another private college early. And then early action, you can apply to as many colleges as you wish that have early action due date. So the number here is actually for class of 2020 is down from the last year. So last year more students applied to colleges that have the restricted early action. So the really most prominent colleges in that group will be the Stanford, Yale, Princeton, and Harvard. And then we have the early decision, and then early decision 1 and early decision 2, that's a number in parentheses. So the early decision is a binding agreement. So if a student applies, let's say, to Northwestern University on November 1, under early decision agreement, and if a student is admitted, it means student absolutely must enroll. So we have this year, we have 47 students in the class of 2020 who are applying to A1 college under early decision agreement. Last year we had 35, but then last year we had 14 students who turned around and applied to another college under early decision 2 agreement, which means that those students who are not admitted to a college under early decision 1 have a chance to apply to a different college under early decision 2 agreement. And then finally we have our UIUC number. I should have corrected it. This is the number grew. So the 140 actually is well, you know what? Actually, it's flipped, and I apologize for the error. I just realized 162 for the class of 2020 and 140 for the class of 2019. So I really truly apologize for my error. So 162 for the class of 2020 and then 140 for the class of 2019. All right, so this is a student to-do list. So one of the things you can do with your student, you can go over that checklist and you can check your student's pulse and you say, okay, have you done the first bullet point, the second bullet point, the third bullet point, and so on. So I'm not going to read it back to you since you read it all. But that's pretty much what every single student needs to do. I want to say by now, out of 221 seniors, we probably have no more than 2 or 3 students that did not submit a college application, no more than 2. So every single student either applied to a college using common application or applied to a college using that college's portal. An example would be UIUC. So to apply to UIUC, a student needs to create an account on the UIUC portal. So the first 3 bullets are all about common application. The next bullet is about supplemental essays. All teachers' accommodations have been already requested on Naviance. The students either send an SAT or ACT score or self-report if a college allows for that, and then submit the CSS profile and FAFSA. College interviews are already starting up. We already had 3 invitations that came from 3 different schools, so our students are paying attention to that. And they should be right now looking to apply for non-college specific scholarships. Now, this is a parent to-do list. So hopefully by now, every single parent calculated their EFC, expected family contribution. So then you are not shocked or dismayed when in the spring you will receive offers from colleges. Your child will receive offers from colleges that come with financial aid offers. And you see the number that the colleges require you to pay. So you really need to know your EFC. Number 2, we ask that all students pay for, all parents pay for their students' college applications. So it's all done now online. So your student needs to either have access to your credit card or need to have his own credit card. So you need to also pay to send the test scores if a college requires you to send the test score. So for instance, University of Urbana-Champaign does not require that. So you can simply list in your application what your test score is, but let's say Florida Institute of Technology requires you to send an official test score, so it depends on the school. It's also your responsibility to work with your student and submit the CSS profile in FAFSA. So by now, every single senior student and parents should have submitted their FAFSA by now, because today is November 5th. And so the FAFSA was open on October 1. We do have a webinar on the CAC website. So if you still are not sure how to do it, we have a webinar FAFSA submission, line-by-line submission. So please do watch that webinar, and then please do complete FAFSA. In addition to that, during Thanksgiving break, you and your students should submit CSS profile, which is needed only by private schools, and usually highly selective private schools. And if a college requires CSS profile, is going to list that on their website, so make sure that you do that. We also really, truly believe that you work with your students on your students' college essays, and you are their first reader. So we ask that every single senior brings their college essays to us, but aside from us, you should be the very first reader. Now, the next bullet point is really super important, and I stressed it a lot during my meetings with my juniors that happened between January and April, and I'm pretty confident that all of my colleagues, CAC colleagues, did the same. So make sure that when you're talking to your student about your student's college list, make sure that you don't put it in any kind of order. Make sure that you never, ever ask a question, what is your top choice? Because when there's a top choice, there's always a bottom choice. There should not be bottom choice colleges on your student's list. So make sure that your student is committed to attending every single college on his or her list. I already mentioned that we do have financial aid webinars that were already posted online. So make sure that you, if you did not participate, make sure that you log in and see communicate with your CAC, and the more the better, so you're not feeling left behind, or you're not feeling left out of the process. Naviance Scholarship Database, also you can browse that together with your student or on your own. It does have a number of non-college specific webinars, and most importantly, and I'm going to have a special slide about that, you need to be regularly checking your student's Naviance student account to see which documents were sent to colleges. And I'll explain more when we get to that point, because this is really truly how you will be on top of your student's college application process. So this is the page that I was referring to. So if you don't know what you're looking at, make sure that you send your student's CAC an email, because you have to have a login. You have to be registered to use Naviance. So this is just a sample page. This is from one of my students. And what you need to pay attention to is that under Office Materials, and you need to see whether or not I marked materials as being submitted. And you can see it says initial materials submitted. And so what it means that I already sent my portion of the college application, of your student's college application, to every single college on your student's list, which means I sent both transcripts from pre-IMSA and IMSA sophomore junior year completed transcript. I sent a secondary school report, and this is where we talk about how long I have known your student, in which capacity. I sent my letter of recommendation, and I sent IMSA profile, which is needed for colleges to kind of gauge the rigor of each high school. Now, this is an excellent document to use to check whether or not your student applied to college. So, for instance, you can log on tonight, and if you see that initial materials were submitted, regardless of the due date, as you can see, my student here is applying early decision to University of Chicago, so it's on November 1, but then applying to every other college on the regular decision due date. What you can ask your student, okay, so Yulia already sent everything, let's say, to Brandeis University. Where are you with your college application process? So what are you working on right now? And then clearly, if it's a November 1 test, then clearly your student, you can ask your students, but your student should probably tell you first that he or she applied to college under early action or early decision or restrictive early action due date. So this is a really, really important page on your student account, on your student, on the Naviance student account. Now, this is what we are doing right now. So we gave every single student a calendar to follow in terms of their college applications that are tailored to their college list. We already helped select teachers' recommendations. And like I said, so the teachers' recommendations are sent separately from us, but we monitor that process, so there's nothing left in the woodwork. We read, critique, and edit college essays. This is what I did nonstop all throughout the month of October. So between October 1 and November 1, I met with my students. I read their writings. I gave them suggestions. I brainstormed some answers. That's what every single CAC did that. We helped our students organize a list of activities on the Common App, just because it's really important. Common applications allow us only for very short descriptions of activities, so it's very important to convey what you've done properly. We also help with tips on college interviews. So like I said already, our secretary, Karen Golson, has sent invitations for college interviews for 3 schools. And we can practice with our students should they choose to come in. We already wrote a comprehensive letter recommendation for every single senior in our class, so this is all ready to go. And we also mail college documents to those schools that do not allow for documents to be received electronically. There's a hand schools that does that, but still there are some schools that still do not have the electronic submission capability, so we mail via regular post to make sure that all the documents are there. And then we offer our help to evaluate financial aid packets in April when our financial packets will arrive, and then we also offer our help to decide which college to enroll, but that's going to come a little bit later in April as well. So this is our portion of our work. All right, so this is what's coming up to make sure that you also on top of everything. So all early decisions, so early action, restrictive early action, early decision, admission decisions will be available to students between December 5th and December 16th. However, some colleges already are notifying our students. So I had a student who already came to my office, and he heard back from Florida Institute of Technology. We have some students who already been admitted to UIC. So it's between 12 between December 5th and December 16th for sure, but any time before then is also possible. So colleges that have rolling admission decisions, that would be UIC. So moment you apply, usually you expect to receive a decision between 3 to 4 weeks. That would be the Iowa, let's say, Michigan State University, University of Iowa, Iowa State University. Big state schools usually do that, but not University of Urbana-Champaign. So University of Urbana-Champaign decisions will be available on December 13th. We will send every remaining application material for every single student to all schools by December 20th. So we will not go, will not be gone for winter break with some of our student files staying still pending. So every single student file, every single student, every single college on the student list will say initial material submitted by December 20th. We also will be sending mid-year reports. This is really, really important. First semester grades are factored into the admission for all common application schools that use regular decision due date. MIT looks also at first semester grades, which is not a common application school. Georgetown is not a common application school, but also looks at first semester grades. And we're going to send first semester grades to all 4 military academies. Now, first semester grades will not be looked at colleges that will admit students under early action, restrictive early action, early decision due date. So, for instance, if a student applied to University of Chicago as an early decision student or early action student and a student was admitted, then a college will not look at the first semester grades. College will look at the second semester grades to make sure that the student graduated from IMSA and make sure that all the grades look up to par, but it's not going to ask for first semester grades. So all admission decisions, along with financial aid packets, will be announced by every single college on April 1st or before April 1st, because April 1st is the official National College Notification Day. And then during the month of April, this is when really, truly, if you haven't visited a college that admitted your student, you should make an attempt to do that, because during the month of April, your student will need to decide which college to attend, and your student then will deposit only to one school by May 1, and that's going to be the most exciting day. All right, so here we come to the most important slide, to the slide for which you sign up for this webinar. So, has my child applied to college? There are 4 ways for you to check. Well, first of all, clearly have a conversation with your student. Ask your student if he or she submitted the application. Check your credit card statement, because remember I said earlier, your student cannot apply to college without paying a fee. Very few colleges allow students to apply for free. So, and somebody needs to pay that bill. So most likely it's you. Make sure that you check students' Navient student account, because we do allow, there's a feature that is turned on, and seniors actually can change the status of the applications from to applications submitted. So, as you go tonight or this weekend or wherever next time you see your student, you can sit down with your student's college list, and you can just go over every single college, and your student can update the status by himself or herself, saying the application submitted. You also can reach out to us, CACs, and you can reach out to your student's CAC, because we actually can see on Navient whether or not your student completed a common application. We can only see, unfortunately, common application because Navient is in sync with common application. So, the moment something happens on the common application, Navient gets notified, and when the student submits an application to a common application school, then the Navient gets automatically updated. So we can do that. So those are the 4 ways for you to check and see whether or not your student applied to a college. Well, that brings us to the end of our presentation. So we'll open right now. Jason and June is going to help me open our chat box so you can ask any questions. I'm a little bit surprised at how low our attendance is. I don't ever remember delivering webinar with so few parents present. So I just joked a little bit at the beginning and said maybe it's something wrong with me and maybe I should reconsider offering webinars. But I will post the webinar online shortly, and hopefully many more people will be able to to view it, and then we'll be able. So let's just see what our questions are. Oh, thank you so much. You just helped me a little bit. Very nice. So what is RO? So what is RO admission? I see the students of transcript is requested for you. I see the deadlines are passed. Okay. Oh, those are very excellent questions. So let's discuss the RO. RO means rolling. So rolling admissions means apply anytime you want, and earlier the better. So colleges like, say University of Iowa or Iowa State University have rolling admission. So we ask all of our students to complete their applications to rolling admission by November 1. So then the student will hear back. The second question is also very good. So you can see the status of transcript is requested for your IUC, but the deadline has passed. So here's what happens with all the colleges that do what is called that use what is called self-reporting status. In other words, there are a number of schools that includes UIUC where we do not send a transcript. We do not send a single piece of document from our office. It includes UIUC, it includes all California schools like University of California, Berkeley, University of California, San Diego, and so on, Los Angeles. And it's because colleges ask students to submit sort of a narrative about their grades. So not a narrative, but there's a special place in the application where a student lists a class and a student lists a grade. Because we don't send any transcripts to self-reporting schools, so therefore the status there will be requested rather than submitted. But if you have any doubt or if you have any questions, make sure that you call your student's CAC, and your student's CAC will reassure you. All right. What day do you think we'll hear back from HPME? The HPME Northwestern decision will be available before April 1, if not on April 1. Northwestern is notorious for taking their time. So all of their admission decisions, let me see when the April 1 is this year. And April 1 this year is going to be on Wednesday, and that's most likely will be the day, April 1. Are there any other questions or... Well, first of all, I thank everybody who logged in. Who joined us today. Like I said, the attendance is very, very small, but still, I thank you for your time. I don't see any more questions. We're going to wait just a little bit to see if there are any other questions. And once again, I really encourage you to reach out to your students' CAC should you have any questions. Should you be stuck? Should you be not? Should you be frustrated with anything? Make sure that you reach out to us. What does it mean, no request? What does no request mean for transcript? No request, that means a student hasn't requested a transcript. That means a student hasn't probably put his college, he probably did, or she did not add the college to the common application list. So for us to send everything, a student must request a transcript. So the person who asked that question, I really encourage you to reach out to your student's CAC to make sure there are no miscommunications and misunderstanding between your student and what needs to be done. At this point, just about every single student should have request pending status rather than no request. Is there any deadline for a rolling admission? There is no deadline. However, colleges with rolling admissions admit students, and when they're full to the capacity, they stop admitting them. So while there's no deadline and while it's possible to apply to Iowa State University on May 27th, it's not a good idea. So we ask all of our students who have a school that has a rolling admission to complete their application by November 1. And if not by November 1, then by Thanksgiving. And if not by Thanksgiving, then definitely by December 20th, by the very last day of the first semester. Is there any deadline to rolling admission? Yes. There is a final deadline, usually in the summer. Yeah. So it will be like June or July. Yes, there is one. Are there any other questions? Well, it looks like there are no more questions. Thank you very, very much for joining us tonight. I will post our webinar promptly. Please, like I said, talk to your students, reach out to your students' CAC, and have a wonderful, wonderful night.